I am sure that you can feel the words forming in the front of your mouth as you whisper, and you almost have to exaggerate your mouth movements to be heard in a whisper across the room. During the next month, you should practice whispering across the room for 5 minutes each day. Now then, for the next month, I also want you to do this. I want you to read out loud everything you can, speaking slowly like this. When you are in your car, read billboards aloud, slowly, exaggerating your mouth movements. Read a story or two out of the newspaper every day, exactly the same way. Pronounce each word syllable by syllable. Do not try to pronounce each word at a gulp. Pronounce each syllable carefully and be certain you do not skip any syllables. You cannot skip over syllables when you're an announcer. So now is the time to learn how to handle every syllable in every word you read and speak. If you speak quickly, you cannot hear that you have missed a syllable, so you must do this exercise slowly. The best way to begin this exercise for the first month is to speak very slowly with very exaggerated mouth movements. You may feel silly doing it, but once it has started overcoming any lazy mouth habits you have, you will be able to speak at a normal pace and still handle every syllable of every word perfectly. It is just about impossible to state too strongly the importance of saying every syllable of every word. You should try to pronounce carefully every syllable of every word every time you speak. Even when you're in ordinary conversation with your friends, pronounce each syllable. If they want to know what you're doing, just tell them you're training your voice for professional work. Actually, when your ah and exercises have strengthened and deepened your voice, and when you're speaking carefully and correctly and projecting your voice from the front of your mouth, you will find that you're sounding so much better than you have in the past that your friends will begin to try to imitate your new speaking voice. Now let us discuss another aspect of your voice that may well need correction. That is the subject of regional speech or dialects. Some areas of the United States have quite distinctly different characteristics of speech compared to other regions. These characteristics, or dialects, such as the so-called Southern drawl or the New England twang, and variations within these dialects will keep you from getting a good job as a radio announcer. However, they are not too hard to overcome. In fact, most of our basic exercises, such as pronouncing each syllable carefully and overcoming nasality and exaggerating your mouth movements, will go a long way toward overcoming any regionalisms you may have in your speech. Persons who speak what is known as New England speech have a tendency to breathe an H sound in place of R, as in father, New York, pleasure. In New England speech, the aw sound of most O's are flattened to ah, as in Boston. To non-New Englanders, perhaps the most noticeable difference from the most common American speech is the addition of hard R's to the end of words which do not end in R. Perfect examples of this regionalism were President Kennedy's famous pronunciation of idear and cuber. Persons who use Southern speech tend to leave the R off the end of words which end in R, but the Southern dialect is strikingly different from the New England speech. Where the New Englander speaks in a hard, often fast manner, the Southerner speaks so softly that his voice does not project properly. Where the New Englander clips syllables out of words, the Southerner often adds syllables that do not belong in words. For instance, in place of there, the Southerner will say they are. Speaking very slowly and carefully pronouncing every syllable of every word as you read the word will go a long way toward getting you out of the habit of many of these regionalisms. The other exercise that will lead your voice into what is known as general American pronunciation is the careful imitation of your teacher's voice and pronunciation throughout your recorded lessons. To give you some concrete examples of what we are talking about, I'm going to begin your first pronunciation lesson. There will be one of these pronunciation lessons in each of your Columbia lessons, and by the time you have completed the course, you will have learned how to pronounce correctly almost 2,000 of the most commonly mispronounced words in American speech. As you practice with this pronunciation lesson, you're bound to come across some words, perhaps many words, which you will swear we are pronouncing incorrectly. But before you get upset or ashamed about it, Let me say that no one person in the United States would be able to go through this list of words and pronounce them all in the recommended manner. The English language is too rich and varied a language for any one person ever to gain a perfect command of it. The pronunciations in this lesson are not the result of any one man's decision of how every word should sound. They are the result of speech experts and broadcasting networks' opinions of a good, sound pronunciation that can be understood by everyone, everywhere. That is the important thing in broadcasting, and if you learn these pronunciations correctly, they will not only help you train your voice and your pronunciation so that any radio station in the country can find no fault with them, they will also help you to be understood every time you speak. This is the way the pronunciation lesson works. First, I will pronounce the word the way it should be pronounced. Then we will pause to give you time to pronounce the word yourself. I want you to pronounce each word slowly, exaggerating your mouth movements, pronouncing every syllable carefully, and I want you to try to imitate the sound of my voice at the same time. I also want you, and this is very important, to take your written text in your hand and read each word before you pronounce it. First, I will stop to give you time to do at least a full minute of ah and exercises to relax your vocal cords before we begin.